And the Rambam concludes that speculating too much about Gog and Magog and the coming of Mashiach does not bring a person to Avas Hashem, to love of Hashem, or to Yiras Hashem, and therefore the Rambam suggests that we shouldn't spend too much time. Christians like to do this a lot. Christians do a lot of, not that she's bothered checking their stuff, but they do a lot of Messianic speculations. And there are certain groups of Jewish people who also like to do this as well. They engage in a lot of Messianic speculations. But, I don't know. It's like, I can go back to 2010 and they say, this is the year Mashiach is coming. I mean, just go back and check all these old blogs, if they're still on there. 2010, they said, this is absolutely the year. And I'll give you all of this proof. 2011, the same thing. 2020, the same thing. So you go back, all of these predictions, prognostications. So the Rambam already told us. The Rambam writes that we shouldn't spend a lot of time in this. We believe there will be a Geula. We believe there'll be a Binyan Beis HaMikdash. And we believe that before that happens, there are going to be tough times. And that's kind of as far as we go. We really can't get a more complete picture than that. Yeah.
Rabbi referenced a couple of weeks back there might be a discrepancy in the Jewish and
Yeah. 160 years, yeah.
It would have to be a multiple of 7 when you were Shmita. Also, what about other opinions besides Rich?
Just to review this very quickly. This is the most famous contradiction in Jewish historical chronology between secular history and the Kabbalah of Chazal, as recorded in the work Seder Olam. Remember, Seder Olam is a very important work. Seder Olam is from the Tanoim and is essentially the chronology from Brias HaOlam to the Churban Bayis Sheni. You then have 70 years of exile. So what year was the Second Temple built? The Second Temple was built 516 BCE. Okay? Churban, 586 BCE. Binyan, 516 BCE. When was the Second Temple destroyed? The year 70 of the Common Era. So how many years do you have between 516 BCE and 70 CE? Well, it's 516 plus 70. You have a period of 586 years for the Second Temple. Chazal only gave the Second Temple 420 years. Which means, according to the secular reckoning, the Second Temple stood 166 years longer, right? Because it was 586 years, right? Which means, and the way you get that into is the Persian period was much longer. The Persian period was much longer, and therefore you have a total duration of 586. So, how do you reconcile this, right? How do you reconcile this? So, the truth is, many books have been written on this. Many different answers have been suggested. Rabbi Wein, he should be well, wrote history books, and he addresses this in a footnote, and he says, this is a famous question, and he's not going to take a position on how do you reconcile that. Some say Seder Olam is wrong and secular is right. Some say, which we don't like to say, obviously, some say secular is wrong and Seder Olam is right, meaning you just dismiss the other cheshbon. Others want to reconcile them. Rav Schwab, I mentioned a few weeks ago, had a very daring hypothesis that Chazal deliberately concealed 166 years of the Second Temple, because those were times of Avodah Zarah, whatever it is, he didn't want to, Chazal didn't want to add it, which means, according to that cheshbon, this is quite amazing, quite scary. It actually means the year from creation that we are in is not 5785. It is 5785 plus 168. But what year? 5951. Now, that's a little, well, maybe it's hopeful or maybe it's scary, because if we believe that Mashiach comes no later than the year 6000, we're not 200 plus years from the year 6000. We're only 50 years or so from the year 6000, based on the idea that Chazal took out of the calendar 166 years. Now, this is such a daring proposition that Rav Schwab himself, in a later article, says he hereby withdraws it, and he says he doesn't offer it as a teretz anymore, and he says, Geshem, as Chazal say, Geshem shekibalti schar al adrisha, just as I get reward for exposition, I'll get reward for keeping quiet. So Rav Schwab withdrew it as a teretz, but l'maisa, it is a teretz that he gave, and the article that he wrote is still out there. So people discuss this. I mean, we don't have a double borrower. However, it is pointed out that instead of looking at this as a machlokas between Seder Olam and secular history, it's been pointed out that it's a machlokas within Chazal itself, meaning the Gedolim point out that if you look at various other Makairos within Chazal, you will find a much longer period for Persia.